We're in Holyoke, Massachusetts. We're on Pleasant Street, which is a long road. We're going to do a Highlands neighborhood. And the first thing we're looking at on the right-hand side is the First Congregational Church. This is not their first location at all, but it was the first time we used brick and mortar. It's still used as a religious organization, but it's changed hands. It's not part of the congregational denomination anymore. And we're going, like you guess, on Pleasant Street into a residential neighborhood very quickly. And we're going to head up to Fairfield Avenue. We're crossing on the left-hand side to Robert Houston House. Very gorgeous house. Most people miss it. It's painted 3 colors, so it's a painted lady Victorian home. Now, being residential means a lot of people live in the Highlands. And this really developed in the late 1880s into a true neighborhood. And by the 1890s, you could have called it a trolley neighborhood because the trolley was coming up here, which means you need institutions. And what kind of institutions? Churches, schools, stores, and very small businesses. Of course, there was no big mills up here. The canal doesn't come by here. So we're on Fairfield Avenue, and this is the best street in Holyoke for beautiful Victorian homes. So we're going to pass by them and we're going to see them. And this is its own tour given by the Holyoke local historic district council, and they give tours of this street. It's so enormous it takes hours to go through every house that's on here. Okay, and you can see on both sides, most of them are Queen Anne Victorian homes. There's some that are other, such as shingle style. And most of them were built from the very first in 1880, but most in the 1890s, and then a few in the very first decade of the 1900s. And there's a median strip that is owned by Holyoke, and thus it's taken care of by them. And otherwise, you can see nothing but homes on both sides. You can see why people love this place. About 15 years ago, it was made into the first local historic district in Holyoke, and the only. And that means it needs its own commission to make sure that people don't change the facades of the homes. Being a local historic district, you could not change the facades. And there's certain schemes they'd like people to keep, such as they want to keep people to keep their porches in nice order and paint their houses very nicely. And for the most part, most people do, but not all of them do it. Okay, so we're going to go down a couple more streets in the Highland here. And to do that, you got to get into Northampton Street, which is the connection street between a lot of these side streets. So what we'll do is go down the next street here, which is Lincoln Street, and think of Lincoln Street as pretty much the same as Fairfield Avenue, and it has, again, Queen Anne Victorian homes along the whole of it, but it doesn't have only that. So along the way, we're going to point out that it had a school, it does have a park and playground, it did have a church, so forth. And you can see right here on both sides, again, the Victorian homes. Very gorgeous, probably not quite as gorgeous as Fairfield Avenue was. But when most people say the Highlands, they think of either these two streets or they think of some of the churches that are up here, of which there are very many. And so what we'll do now is turn on to Waldo Street, and we'll get to see Kennedy Park up close. The reason why we want to see that is because they have a new playground here. Very expensive playground because it's fully handicap accessible. On every ride, you can have a handicapped person go on it. It's enormous. I'm embarrassed to say how much money it costs, but it's quite worth it and very safe for all kinds of people. You can see it off to your left now. And okay, what we're going to do now is go to one more stop. When you think of the Highlands, you often think of multiple homes, but also you think of stores And most of the stores are on Hamden Street going up, and so what we'll do, we'll go by Hamden Street, and we'll end our tour by looking at some of the stores along the way here. Okay, we're finally on Hamden Street, and we're passing by some of the side streets, and many side streets in the Highlands, and that defines a lot of the Highlands. And then on the left-hand side is the Highlands Fire Station. Only the addition is left. The real fire station is long gone, and it has a hose tower at back. And then as you go along Hamden Street, you start to come out to Northampton Street again, and that's where you see a lot more stores. So if you think it's stores and lots of houses and a few churches, you're probably right. But no, some of those houses are absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for coming on this neighborhood drive through Highlands of Holyoke, Massachusetts.